This is Urdizzle back again, and I've decided to branch out a little bit and explore some of the courses and holes that people have been asking about on the Facebook group. And one of the ones that came up recently was Harrowing Woods Hole 8, the par 4 here, that someone made a comment about getting eagles on. And so the 3 discs I'm going to use in this particular video, my accurate windbreak musket off the tee, which just works in any wind, doesn't matter. And then my accurate windbreak fuse, which is my putter and approach disc, especially for my forehand approach shots that I've been deadly with the last year or so. And I do use an accurate sticky pure just by accident and laziness. And so what I'm going to end up doing here, the video, if you see, is a little quicker. I sped it up a little bit because I'm going to play this hole 50 times just to show you, there's an eagle, just to show you consistently with every wind what I do to try to eagle this. And so the first shot out of the gate, or first time playing the hole, I eagle it, which is phenomenal. So my goal with this is to, 2 for 2. All right, that's pretty good. Good start. My goal is to play the accurate windbreak musket just over the top of the hill here and land somewhere around that rock. And so that's quite a bit further. Wow, that almost went out of bounds. I think we can actually make this one too. Okay, this is a phenomenal start, 3 for 3. But my goal is to get somewhere out around that rock and to get a shot anywhere in the 170 to 200 range. Sometimes I'm a little further out than that, which is not ideal. But the goal, if you can get close to that, is if you want to eagle this consistently, you're just going to have to learn to throw it in. Like, I'm having a phenomenal start right now. This is just, I'm expecting the next one to go out of bounds or something. Let's see what happens on this guy. And again, I did speed this up so you don't have to watch it at regular speed. Oh, get it. I want to keep the streak going. And so the idea behind this is if you get really good at your throw-ins, and we're not talking about your throw-ins from 60 feet or 80 feet or 100 feet. I think truly top-end players are consistent out to 170, 190, 200 feet. And we don't make it every time. Like, let's be clear about that. Anybody that says that they are making these 180, 200-foot shots every single time, it's just not happening. Ideally, for example, like Sunshine Hole 1, I'm trying to hit it 1 out of every 3, and that's a good percentage. Some people have gotten a little better at that, but at the end, that was off the chains too. But you notice here, we're multiple shots in. I'm either making it or hitting metal or something else that's just, I'm always close. And that's the key, is you're not going to make it every time. Okay, and so that was quite a bit shorter. And so here, I'll actually switch to backhand, same a little lower, and that's going to miss to the right. But that was, don't go out of bounds. That was the right height. And that's usually what happens with me when I miss these, is the height is correct, but the left to right is a little off. And that's just the wobble. That's just the natural wobble of the disc when you pull it back. And there's really no way to counter that. I refuse to play slow. And I've seen some people play where they'll actually pull the disc back. Yes, got another one. They'll pull the disc back and they'll hold it for 2, 3, 5 seconds until they get the wobble exactly where they want it. And I found no value in that. Like, I think that slows me down, and it doesn't really, I never found that I made the shots more often when I did that. And so I go with a nice smooth pullback every time. And there's another one, man, I am just killing it so far. So the first 10, I've got 6 eagles, 4 birdies. And just to be clear, I am normally not making them at that high a percentage. Like, that's a fantastic start. I'd like to make them often, but definitely not that often. So the strategy here with the second shot, and we'll take a look right here, is in general, my accurate windbreak fuse will flip a little bit out of the hand. So what I do is I aim low. And so you'll notice the 3 arrows there are aimed a little right of the basket. Now, how far right depends on how low I aim, how close I am. So at this distance, about 192, which is out near that rock, sometimes a little farther, sometimes it's a little closer, is I aim right about at the F and the T on 192 feet. Obviously, those of you that are in meters, that's a little different. But generally speaking, I aim right around where the F and T are. And then based on the distance, this is where I play this hole enough, I know how high or how low to aim. So for example, here we're 192 feet out. And I know based on that distance, the circle that's above the 3 arrows for my aim point, I know if I aim those circles at the top of the F and the T, that's the distance for about 196 feet to 198. Again, this is not an exact science. It's just I don't have like a chart that I use. I play it kind of, I call it the eyeball test. It's just what I feel. And so in this example, it's 192, so I know I'm going to have to take the circle that would normally be above the F and the T and bring it down a little bit so it's kind of inside there. And so that's my aim point for this particular shot. Now on that one, I missed it a little to the right. Why did I miss it? That's part of the wobble. Like, you're not always going to get it perfectly accurate left to right, but the idea is just to get it as close as possible height-wise, and just hope your left to right is accurate. And so this one, same thing, I'm aiming out by the T, and it's 198, so I slid the circle up just a little bit. And so that one, now see, I over-adjusted a little bit, and that one ended up missing left. So again, the one before it missed right, that one missed left. And so I think that's good, though, because that's the average. Like, if I'm in the middle there, I'm going to be making those more often than not. All right, so let's see where this one is. So this one's a little further out, 214. So in this example, I actually go backhand. For backhand shots, the aim point is a little different. So the top arrow there, I've found that if it's lined up with the bottom point of that circle that's above the basket, my backhand fuse usually goes around 216, 218, somewhere around there. So here I'm 214 feet, so the tip of that top arrow is just a hair below the target that's above the basket. And then I aim a little left. I know it's a little hard to see, but I'm basically the same distance to the left that I am to the right on my forehand shots. And so I think at that, I've got the distance dialed in, and just missed it. And we almost, honestly, that one should have gone out of bounds. So my left to right was off a little bit, and that was a little low. So we'll have to tweak that a little bit. But those are the two main aim points, the backhand and the forehand. So I use the arrows a lot. So let's see what this one looks like. So 212. Now this one, I would love to use backhand, but the tree is in the way. And so I'm not going to lie, I haven't really practiced those longer shots with the forehand fuse. So 212, I use my forehand ideas, like the distances, but I don't really have a set aiming point. I just kind of play it by eye test. And so that's why that one was so far off. All right, so here, 180. Based on what I told you guys a little bit ago, I'm going to aim around the F and the T, but since it's 180, I'm going to have to aim a lot lower. So here you'll notice the circle is almost totally covering up the F and the T on the 180 feet. And so that, first one out of bounds. So that one was a little high. So now I know to adjust that if it's 180 feet, I've just got to go a little lower. But it also shows that if you're comfortable making shots from 60 feet in, you can run these. And if you do go out of bounds, the worst case is you make your 60-footer and you end up getting a par. All right, so here, again, that's a little, not quite, back-to-back out of bounds. That was not good. So that one I rushed a little bit. That was, I would have preferred to be on the right side of that tree. I was on the left. And so I was kind of outside my preparation there. I won't say I didn't know where to aim, but most of my shots were not in that location. All right, so 202 here. So now we're going to aim a little bit higher than the T there. So notice I'm above the F and the T, but based on the 196, 198 I was telling you guys about, I'm a little above that because it's 202. And this one should be pretty good. So it's a little low. So now I know 202, I'm going to have to aim a little higher. Not too much, because again, there is some vertical wobble that you have to worry about. So this is not an exact science. All you're trying to do is kind of read the distance, read the location, and put yourself in the best position to make it. All right, so here, 211, we aim to the right a little lower. And that one was pretty good. And so when I'm doing these, I know it seems like I'm going quickly, but this video is sped up a little bit. It's a 50% speed increase, but I also kind of process and make my decisions very quickly. I know some people, when you see them post videos of their rounds, they play very slow and very methodical. There we go. I don't. I just play, I process the information, I make my decision, and I go with it. I don't want to second guess anything. I just roll straight through, and it's worked out pretty well for me here. All right, so 181, I'm going to aim a little lower, and I'm not going to really pause. That's dead center. Bam. And our second group of 10, not quite as good as the first group, but still pretty solid. We had 6 birdies, 2 eagles, and then 2 OBs that ended up turning into pars. So no bogeys yet. Still kind of what I'm looking for. And it'll be hard to keep up this pace, but 8 eagles out of 20 times playing the hole is pretty good. Not half, but that is definitely not something I would say I do on a regular basis. All right, so we'll move into the next group of 10. And again, things are speeding up a little bit. So 207, so now we know we're going to aim a little above the F&T, a little higher. And again, now looking back at these based on the videos and the other holes we played, I probably should have aimed a little higher at 207. And so even for me making this video, like I'm learning a little bit more about my aim points and which shots I'm missing. So that one right there, same thing again. So it's like those 2 mistakes are exactly what I just did a couple minutes ago, where the 207 I aimed a little too low, and the 180, 184, whatever it was, I aimed a little bit too high. So we will definitely make that adjustment as we move forward in other games, obviously not this video. So 189, I'm pretty comfortable in that one. Yeah, that you get me right around that 190 range, give or take a couple feet, and I'm pretty comfortable with those shots. Like I know where to aim. It's just getting the other distances dialed in based on that. Now this one's a little different because this is a bit closer than my other one, so 177. So this one I paused. I want everybody to take a look. Instead of looking at the 2 circles up top for my aiming apparatus, is look at the bottom where the 3 arrows are. So for a setup like this, I'm 177, and this is what I do a lot with my forehand throw-ins. About 175 feet is the throw-in distance for the top arrow. So if you look at the top aiming arrow, when it's lined up with the bottom of that target above the basket, that's usually dead on. So right here, I'm pretty confident that I have the distance dialed in. And that was actually left, but it was also a little high. And I think the reason it was a little high is because where I was kind of on a little bit of an upslope. So that's one of the things you have to pay attention to when you're judging distances, is where are you? So right here, see if you go a little bit too far past the rock, you're kind of up on that little hill. And so I did not account for that little change right there. But that aim point, the arrows, that's what I use for most of my forehand throw-ins. It's, like I said, around 172 to 175 is where the top arrow and the target above the basket, if you line those up, and then tweak them based on elevation changes. And obviously the left or right. All right, here, this is just kind of not a great spot to be in on the other side of that tree, but I'm going to tweak it a little bit. Almost made it. And so that one, knowing that the forehand, when I throw it like that, is going to turn, I'll just aim a little to the right and bring that tree completely out of play. And then the disc, again, the fuse and the river throw very, very similar to each other. Out of your hand, they have an initial turn to them. So like right here, it seems like I'm seems like I'm aiming way to the right, but what I know is going to happen is that fuse, when it comes out of my hand, is going to turn a little bit initially and just kind of go around those obstacles, around the trees or around a bush. And so as long as you know that, you can kind of play to your strengths and play to know where that's going to go. All right, so 179, I'm pretty confident in that, but that was low. I think that one I might have rushed my pullback a little bit. And I have a tendency to do that sometimes, is my pullback comes down too quick and I maybe don't pull the disc all the way back as far as I need to. So sometimes I just have to not slow it down like some people do, but just slow down the pullback a little bit to make sure I'm pulling all the way back. I think that's just a tendency a lot of people do when they're rushing things. So far, these are good, but I'm not getting eagles anymore. So that's why I was saying at the end of the first 20, like it's really hard to keep that 50% clip for eagles here. 201, let's see if we can end this 10 in a bang. I felt pretty good about that one. Dead center, but just a little off. So that group of 10, nothing too special. A lot of metal hits, but that was kind of coming back to reality a little bit, where I had 9 birdies and just the one throw-in eagle. But again, no out of bounds, so we'll take that. So overall, this has been pretty successful. I've had pretty good luck. A lot of times on this hole, when you run it, you'll get bad kicks, kicking off the top. And I've actually had quite a few metal hits where I have not kicked out of bounds or long. Sometime, oh, good. So that's a good start to the next batch. But that's what you're going to get when you run holes. It's being aggressive. And so one of the things you'll notice, my aim points may not be the best for making them, but what I don't want to do is I don't want to miss to the left. Because if you miss to the left like that, so I hit chains there, that was lucky. But if you miss left, it's a strong possibility that you're going to skip into the water. That's just the nature of it. And so when I miss, I would rather miss a little to the right and use that hill as the backstop, which is actually why I don't mind when my shots are a little short, like to the left of this tree, because that allows you to kind of bring that hill into play a little more. So right there, that's fortunate. I mean, that very easily could have skipped a little more to the left and gone into the water. But obviously, if it's a little more to the left, I have a better chance of it going in. So let's see how these turn out now. Again, I like the sped up process here. Again, some people may not like the fact that I sped this up by 50%, but it saved 9 minutes on this video. So if you can watch 50 shots and it takes you 9 minutes less, I mean, to me, I'll call that a victory. All right, so let's check one of the aim points here, just kind of a random spot. All right, so here we're to the right of it. And this is an interesting location because you've got the hill as a backdrop, which is nice, and you're 191, but this is actually a little bit lower than to the right where that rock is. So you kind of have to adjust a little bit of the height. So I'm actually going to aim a little bit lower than I normally would, and that was too low, and I went out of bounds. Oh, wow. I barely stayed in. But that one, so I over-adjusted a little bit, but if you're a little bit shorter, it's just a tiny bit lower on the hill than that. So the rock is just maybe a foot or two higher. And so those are those little things. And maybe that comes into play on this hole, maybe not. But I think a lot of people lose track of the elevation. Like a good example of that is the Blueberry par 4. Where you've got the two gaps, the left gap and the right gap. A lot of people don't realize that the basket is actually a little bit higher. So if you throw a good drive and you're 80, 90, 100 feet out on that hole and you're trying to throw it in like this, you're actually throwing uphill a little bit. I think a lot of people miss that. Or the Oak Hill par 4 where you're throwing over the big pond on your tee shot. It's like 600 feet. That one also, the basket is a little bit higher than where you are throwing from. So if you're throwing from 100, 110 feet out, you're actually throwing slightly uphill. So you got to keep those things in mind. And here, this just stinks. So we're 201 and we got the tree in the way. So again, that was bad. That was just not a smart shot. I mean, I threw it around the left of the tree, but that's probably the worst thing to do there because then you basically have no backdrop there. And that was just not a good shot. I'm going to blame the rain. The rain is bad luck for me. It's not, but I'll go with that. And so here I'm a little higher up the hill than I would normally like to be, and I did it again. Ugh, that's 2 in a row. And so that one, I just didn't adjust for, just literally what I was just talking about, how a lot of people don't adjust for the height. I did it. I was just a little further uphill, and I just didn't compensate for that, and I went long. That's streak of 2. Let's try to end that. So here I'm up on the hill again, and I did it again. Wow, 3 in a row. So the mistakes on those last 2 were easily fixable. That just, if I'm up on the hill there, again, the further right you are, you have no backdrop. So we ended that group of 10 with a triple whammy, OB, 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 which is not what I wanted to do, but still consistent. But we tossed in 3 pars and only 1 eagle in that group of 10. So percentages are going down just a little bit. But the best part, no bogeys. That is important. If you don't hit metal, you are skipping long right into the water. So let's see if we can tweak this a little bit. Again, I'll blame the rain. So I'm not that far. So we're back down to this 196. I like this range. 196, aim at the F and the T. There we go. Yeah, that's, for me, that is my comfort zone. Give me 190 to 196 right by that rock. I've thrown that shot so many times. I'm just very comfortable with it. So we're seeing in this last group of 10 if we can wind down with a few more eagles like we did the first 10. And that's a pretty good one too. All right. That's what I like to see. And then with the bang, our percentages went down a little bit. Still pretty solid, but we definitely want to do a little better. That's pretty good, a little closer, 187, so we're going to aim a little lower. And by this point in time, I feel pretty comfortable. Get another one. Oh, come on. Not much you can do about that. I mean, that was where it needed to be. I don't think I would change anything if I had to throw that one again. But you notice my drives. This is why I throw that accurate windbreak musket. All right, so now we're to the left of the tree. Back in. And I was not, oh man. I even told myself I'm not going to miss left. And I almost missed right and still went in the water. But no, the accurate windbreak musket, it's just such a consistent disc. Like I am out pretty much in the same spot almost every single time. I mean, my worst shots are 213 to the left of the tree, and that's still manageable. But no. Oh. That's, you get those every now and then. It just turns over a little bit too much. So this was 61. I still putted it, but you got to be careful because some of those, you can get 61, 63, even up to 65. You might actually have to throw them in. That was just not a good spot. So this one, 205. I would probably lay this one up normally, but we're going to go at it since this is just part of the process here. And a lot of times when it's above 205, 210, 215 range, and I've got that tree in play, a lot of times I'll just lay up and take the birdie. Because the times that I try to maneuver the disc around the trees, I go out of bounds. So right here, here's another one where it's just, I mean, I am to the right of the tree, but I'm playing it. You notice those last two shots were almost identical to each other. I was playing a little more conservative because I didn't want to try to like shape the disc around the tree and then end up missing left and going out of bounds. That is definitely not how I want to end this video. All right, so that one right at the rock, 190. So here's that range. I love this range. This is good. Let's hit it. And I missed it. I get disappointed when I miss those in that 190 to 196 range, or like that one, 198. Like I won't say I expect to make them, but I'm annoyed when I don't. Or at least hit metal. I guess I don't have to make it, but... So 206, a little further out, and we're going to try to shape this one a little bit, and that's too much. Yep, that's out of bounds. So see, that's the part when I get in that 205 range I was just talking about. I try to shape the disc a little more for those distances, and you have to give it a little more height, which is going to bring that OB into play. All right, let's see what we got here. So here's that range again. So again, I try to shape it, and this is where I get into trouble. So that one wasn't too bad. But notice my left to right is off a little bit. That's how I know I'm dialed in. If I got the height correct, I know I'm good. But when I start missing way left and right like that and the height is off, it's just, you're just not quite dialed in. Okay, so that is our 50. We'll do a total here at the end. Did not quite end with the bang I had hoped. Had a couple OBs in that. But still, overall, that was a pretty solid showing for 50 shots. So 12 eagles total. So roughly 1 in every 4 shots I was eagling. No bogeys. And then a few more pars than I would have liked. So when I look at holes like this and I decide, was it worth running that, or do I run it in a pro tour or a multiplayer game, as I look at the percentages, and right there, if I've got more eagles than pars, then I know it paid off. Because right there, if I were to just play for birdie every single time and get 50 birdies, and let's assume you get 50 birdies and you don't mess up any of your approach shots, you're shooting 50 under for those 50 holes. And then if you want to have an average of 1 under, so a birdie for every hole, every par and every eagle kind of cancel each other out. So I basically have 5 eagles that were not balanced out by pars, which to me ups the overall statistics for this hole. So I'm actually performing a little bit better than birdie on that. And the pars I got, some of those are very easy to fix. I know that if I'm in 205 or 210 range, to maybe lay it up, because it seemed like most of the ones that I threw in the water were me trying to shape longer shots. So easy to fix. But keep that in mind anytime you're trying to run these longer holes. Are you getting more eagles than you are pars and bogeys? Because remember, a bogey will cancel out 2 eagles. So that's why it's really important, if you're going to miss and go in the water, don't miss those comeback shots and end up with a bogey or worse. So hopefully you enjoyed all these shots on Harrowing Woods hole 8, and I'd like to think it gave you some ideas on ways to be aggressive and play this hole smart and do better. So I will see you guys next video.